Here I go again, striving to become your favourite background noise. Talking about My Little Pony Generation 5 again is always difficult, mainly because people often fall into the trap of constantly comparing it to Generation 4. But since Generation 5 insists on riding the coattails of Generation 4, this is an unavoidable inevitability. In my video Wasted Potential, where I talk about my thoughts on Generation 5, I mainly focused on Zip, the appearance of Spike, and the villain Opaline. Remember everyone, she's the villain. She even has a song about it. I'm a villain! Yes, we know, love, calm down. Sit down, go to your corner, please. So I wanted to expand more on other characters in separate videos, starting with probably the most loved, but also most misunderstood character from Generation 5, Izzy Moon Bow. She became a fast fan favourite after the release of the Generation 5 movie for being an eccentric oddball. It's funny because there's a tennis ball on the end of her horn. She also literally spills the beans to Sunny. Beans means Heinz. That joke will be funny for about 5 people probably. Sadly, and again I say with feeling, this is my opinion, not gospel. In other words, I'm not telling you what to think, I'm just telling you what I think. Feel free to agree or disagree. The Netflix series Make Your Mark and Tell Your Tale sent most if not all of the main characters of Generation 5 on a downward spiral where they lost any potential to carry this franchise onward. It's like Twilight Sparkle literally went, "Hold this for me, would you?" Though the characters of My Little Pony in every generation shouldn't be looked on as the mascots of the franchise in my opinion, they should represent the symbolic values of the brand. In other words, in spite of the fact that My Little Pony started off as a toy line, I don't believe the characters in the show should only serve as an advertisement for said toys. A character should be more than a product. And yes, I see the irony here because I essentially look like a breakfast cereal mascot. Insert incredibly obvious Lucky Charms joke here. But if anything, my character looks like the long-lost sibling of the Rice Krispie triplets. Tell me I'm wrong! And the G5 toys look like this. Please kill me. The symbolic values of My Little Pony being that friendship literally means being oneself and accepting of others. This was done successfully in My Little Pony Generation 4, having each of the main 6 represent an element of friendship. Applejack represented honesty, rarity, generosity, Fluttershy, kindness, Rainbow Dash, loyalty, Pinkie Pie, laughter, and Twilight Sparkle was the element of magic, which tied it all together in a neat little bow. The short message being, be friends or death by rainbow. But I guess this is better than being literally buried alive by a living tree.
I'd like to be a tree.
Shut up, Fluttershy, no one asked you. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, the elements. Generation 5 seemed to try to do the same thing with the main 5, but unlike Generation 4, Generation 5 didn't develop the characters beyond the archetypes they were meant to be. Sunny was meant to be the representation of hope, Zip was courage, Hitch is kindness, though I personally feel Hitch's element should be respect instead. Pip is confidence, Misty is empathy, and Izzy Moon Bow is creativity. And for those of you paying attention, yes, that's 6 elements, not 5, but... Misty's getting her own video, I swear. Though these elements or traits do reflect characters' patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviours, I personally feel that a character can grow beyond being a literal representation of one thing. I like to look at these elements or traits more like templates for a character's growth. The foundation that a character can build from. This allows the characters to be incredibly relatable, and one of the many reasons why so many of us connected so strongly to the main 6 in G4. Characters were well written when it comes to their archetypes because they could have so easily have felt like just stock characters. This is because the show was able to subvert the archetypes presented to us through the main six. Seeing a character be fully aware of what their element is, but also being aware that they still have a lot to learn about it, which means as they do learn about their element, the audience learns along with them and we see their character growth. And to be more relevant with the topic of the video, Rarity for sure had to learn a lot about generosity, but also about how generosity and creativity can often be intertwined. When it comes to the archetype of the creator though, both G4 and G5 have presented this archetype in more than just one character, but primarily in G4, it was in Rarity. The creator archetype isn't happy unless they are making or building something, usually working toward a single creation that consumes their every thought. Compelled to always push the limits and, of course, leave a legacy. And that's one of the many things that art is. A legacy. Art lives on forever and is part of our collective history. Even in a fictional world, that seems to be the same case, especially in My Little Pony.
I just don't think Izzy, or at least the Izzy that we get in the Netflix series and the Tell Your Tale YouTube series anyway, fully grasps exactly what creativity is.
An artist's body of work tells future generations about their values, aesthetics, and culture. I can see this reflected when we see Izzy Moon Bow's artwork in her house in Bridalwood, but after this, in the Netflix series or the Tell Your Tale series, I feel that this whole idea of an artist needing to have a body of work that reflects their personality and their values was forgotten. It just became Izzy Moon Bow is making art out of spoons again. Sunny needs some kind of child lock on her cutlery drawer.
But what is Izzy Moon Bow's legacy meant to be? What does she want to leave behind?
Legacy gives an artist the opportunity to answer the question, how do I want to be remembered? Art broadens knowledge, it gives enjoyment and challenges our assumptions. It can also help soothe, calm, enlighten and uplift the mind and spirit. Even art that may leave us feeling uncomfortable can still help us to think differently and give us a new perspective on life. I feel like this is fully understood in Generation 4. In G5 though, I really don't feel that in this world that legacy is fully appreciated, therefore art isn't really appreciated either. And if art isn't appreciated, then neither is creativity. Kind of makes sense because the premise of G5 literally starts with the three pony races being segregated, so if art isn't appreciated, therefore creativity isn't appreciated, which by extension also means that Izzy Moon Bow herself is also not appreciated. She's just too sparkly for Bridalwood.
Now, kiss. This is diving a little bit into fan theory territory here, but when one of the main themes of your story is segregation,
even if it is in a subtle way, I'm going to just go ahead and assume that a lot of the art was either lost or destroyed during the war that Opaline brought into Equestria, and destroying or vandalizing art is the same as destroying a legacy, in this case being a positive legacy. We only need to look at our own history of what happened to a lot of art during the Second World War to understand how much of an impact this can have on society. If you want a summary of what happened, you can watch the movie Monuments Men. Soldiers literally risked their lives to track, locate and recover looted objects, and this included stolen artwork from galleries during the Second World War. I'm not just talking one or two pieces stolen here, I'm talking about 5 million pieces of art were stolen by the Nazis during the Second World War. The point of the Monuments Men was to recover the stolen artifacts before they were destroyed. Destroy an artist's painting, you're essentially destroying their soul.
But hey, this is a video about Izzy Moon Bow from My Little Pony. Why the hell am I talking about World War II? Well, hello there everybody, welcome to my channel where I read too much into things and go off on tangents that have nothing to do with the subject matter but somehow circle back into a comedic segue.
Izzy was the only other reason I can think of that kept my interest in the Tell Your Tale YouTube series as well as the Netflix series. One episode from Tell Your Tale though, Snakesy Strikes Again, definitely caught my attention, purely because of the painfully obvious Banksy parody. The art nerd in me geeked out hard at that obvious reference. Okay, so for those who don't know who Banksy is, well, That's the thing, literally no one does. Banksy is the alias used by a British street artist, film director and political activist. Most people will recognise this image of a girl reaching for a heart-shaped red balloon, which is referenced in this episode. Though this isn't the first time that My Little Pony has referenced Banksy. The Canterlot Equestria Girls short Display of Affection, for instance, had Planksy, a street artist. Ironically, this 3-minute short said more on the topic of street art in a 3-minute runtime than this episode did with a 5-minute runtime, mainly because it feels like Izzy is approaching art in general from an amateurish level, where Rarity is clearly more professional and deliberately places herself under pressure during her artistic expression. Unlike Izzy, Rarity is fully accustomed to how to act and behave inside art galleries, but Rarity doesn't have the same emotional response to art as Izzy does. Izzy is far more raw, while Rarity is more internalized and articulate when expressing her thoughts within art. But that's the thing, with Rarity's work she celebrates the identity of the individual. She's an artist who wants to bring out a person's inner beauty through her fashion. What is Izzy trying to do with her art?
Hi, new friend! Ooh, is every pony playing hide and seek? I see you!
It's an artist, run! Creativity as a character trait is a complex and multifaceted one, since it's a combination of many other character traits that other characters of the group have. Curiosity, imagination, persistence, flexibility, and openness. In the Netflix series and the YouTube series, they made her more of an eccentric, scatterbrained artist, having her come across as obnoxious at times, or even insultingly clueless. Not knowing the proper etiquette while looking at art inside of a gallery made her just come across as someone that's never set foot in one in spite of being an artist.
High five! Don't mind if I do! Off, Izzy! No touching the art!
Yes, the rule within an art gallery is you don't touch the art, might it be deliberate or accidental. This is something that I feel Izzy should already know, if she's meant to be the elements of creativity anyway. If only they did more with this than just make a bunch of jokes with her making crazy things out of spoons and things she finds in the trash. As gross as this is, making art out of trash is a legit art form, often referred to as either assemblage art or recycled art, or as Izzy Moon Bow refers to it in the movie, unicycling.
Unicycling.
Which is adorable.
Isn't it funky?
Upcycling art, or upcycling things in general, is actually a critical message regarding excessive consumption and environmental pollution. Would have been really interesting to see this as part of Izzy Moon Bow's character, be concerned about the environment, and that's her motivation for making art out of trash. Instead of it just being, ooh, Izzy is the eccentric one, so of course she's going to dumpster dive. Saying that though, Izzy is probably the one character in the show that is more of an enigma than the others. She exists on her own wavelength and doesn't even fit in with other unicorns. Though Izzy is an artist through and through, and her character seemed to have dropped a lot of IQ points in the series, I do appreciate the attention the series is giving to various art movements here, even if it is simplified for the sake of a short run time, as well as the fact that the writing style for Generation 5 seems to be geared to a younger and perhaps more forgiving audience than Generation 4. But as I said in my Wasted Potential video, having a younger target audience should never be used as an excuse for what is, in my opinion, crappy writing. Generation 4 had versions of Salvador Dali, Picasso, Leonardo da Vinci, and more, which was a fun nod to Surrealism, Cubism, and High Renaissance. Izzy seems to celebrate the movement Dadaism, which is a movement known as the anti-art movement, which includes assemblage art, where you create an art piece using found things, usually from trash. It's why Izzy is shown as being an accumulator of random things that seem to have no relation to each other whatsoever. Izzy is a character that can literally make art out of anything, might it be spoons or more spoons. So yeah, she does see everything around her as material for creating art, but I don't think she sees everything around her as literal art like a Dadaist does, even if she does shout to the heavens. I don't think she literally means that. I think she probably means everything can be used to make art, and that now it can be anywhere. So everywhere is now her canvas.
Artists, am I right?
YouTubers, am I right? I was wondering when you were gonna show up.
When Izzy hears the words art can be anywhere, it opens the door to her seeing all of her surroundings as art, and everywhere is now a canvas to her. Not only can art be anywhere, but it can also be anything. And she becomes a street artist going by the alias Sneaksy, an obvious parody of the street artist Banksy. And though technically speaking, Banksy is a part of the postmodernist art movement, not Dadaism. Postmodernism did sort of spawn from Dadaism, but I still find it interesting that My Little Pony is making references to Banksy at all, considering how street art in itself is still seen as pure vandalism, and in Banksy's case definitely narcissistic posturing, and of course irreverent humour and very vivid imagery. So in spite of the Banksy reference, none of that is really able to be conveyed in Izzy's artwork. But what exactly is being conveyed in Izzy's artwork other than pure randomness? Dada was intended to offend. It rejected traditional culture. It's known more as the anti-art movement. So does that make Izzy an anti-artist, or an outsider artist as they're more commonly known as? You know, the ones that are committed to satire, irreverence and ridicule. Dada being an art movement that's been around since 1896. It's a movement which consisted of artists who rejected the logic and reason of the modern capitalist society. They expressed nonsense and irrationality. The movement included humour, whimsy, emotional reaction, irrationalism, spontaneity, and artistic freedom. Gee, doesn't it sound like I'm reading off of Izzy's character sheet here? But I don't think she sees everything around her as literal art like a Dadaist does, though she is clearly a maximalist in her approach to when she does create. Though when Izzy goes through creative block, for some reason in the Netflix show, in spite of being the element of creativity, she behaves as though this is the first time she has ever encountered creative block and has to be told what it is by Pip, who is meant to be the element of confidence.
I can't decide what to make. I know what's wrong. You have creative block. Is it permanent?
God, that is so relatable. Izzy fighting for her right to artistic expression while Hitch explains to her that artists need to follow the rules just like everyone else. But he never said what the rules actually were. He never said what law was actually broken. He just shouted numbers.
But even street artists have to follow the rules. Look at all those code violations. Code 4781. Looks like that's a 423.
Izzy could have argued that the art didn't break any law and it instead, as I said earlier, challenged it, but since her art has no real message and she was trying to keep her identity secret, she instead backs down. Izzy simply wanted art to be accessible to everyone.
I wasn't trying to break the law. I just wanted to make art everywhere for every pony.
I mean, that is what Posies said to her in the art gallery after all.
Many of these street artists keep their identities secret. They believe that art can be anywhere and anything and should be experienced by every pony.
But after some self-reflection, she decides to lie low until she got permission to create said art, which she gets later on when Pip basically makes a prayer to the heavens for Sneaksy to make her a mural.
Well, I would love for Sneaksy to create an original mural for Main Melody. Do you hear me, Sneaksy? Please make me a wall.
I don't think Izzy has any ambition or drive to be a successful artist or make a living on it. I mean, Izzy's no rarity. She has creative drive for sure, but there's no direction or focus with it. Artists are meant to have a rebellious streak, and with Izzy, I don't really feel that here. Izzy doesn't have a competitive drive when it comes to creativity. That was crystal clear in the Netflix series when she was trying to sell things in a craft fair and had no idea what she was doing nor any passion to do so. She just wanted to make presents for her friends on their birthdays.
This is gonna be the best birthday present for a friend I've ever made because I finally have a friend and it's her birthday.
Well, that's cute and all, but it's not exactly inspirational, and that's what I'm looking for here in the characters. Inspiration. I just don't feel mentally stimulated at all when watching Generation 5. I feel like we got that with Verity. Her passion, determination, as well as her successes and humility is what made her such a great character and a huge inspiration to so many. Not to mention her dramatic meltdowns were just so relatable.
Rarity, what are you wearing? My emotions, darling. Stress couture.
I really hate to compare Rarity and Izzy as they are two very different characters when it comes to personality, but I have to admit, I really miss the glamour and sophistication that Rarity brought to My Little Pony, and I also miss the cheeky mischievousness that Izzy had in the movie. What happened? I know most people consider Pinkie Pie to be Izzy's counterpart since she seems to be the comic relief of the series, but to me, because Izzy's element is meant to be creativity, I feel that is more related to Rarity's chosen career. Not necessarily her element, but the fact that Izzy wants to create presents for her friends does make her closer to the element of generosity than laughter to me. Although most if not all of Izzy's art seems to be random and incredibly unclear, as in there's no real message to it. She is an energetic optimist that mirrors Pinkie Pie levels of energy at times. Pinkie Pie's creativity is depicted in the show in many different ways, but in Equestria Girls she's shown to be a carefree perfectionist, able to literally duplicate the Mona Lisa within a cake in the My Little Pony Equestria Girls Friendship Games movie, while also being someone who struggles with art block as seen in the Art of Friendship short. Pinkie Pie's creativity though lies more within her connection to the world around her in a sensory capacity rather than an emotional one. Izzy's creativity seems to lie more in the tools and materials she uses to create a thing rather than the end goal in creation. Rarity's creativity is all about the end goal. Izzy doesn't spend much time with a finished product at all, but instead is on to the next thing almost immediately, while Rarity tends to take the time to bask in having a completed object in front of her. With Izzy, there's no real purpose to her creativity. There's no focus for where she channels it either. At least Rarity could channel her creativity into her fashion business. It's why I feel that Izzy becoming a vendor in Maritime Bay festivals selling her craft wares was such a missed opportunity. Having Izzy be the element of creativity when another member of the group is literally a full-time pop singer who not only writes their own songs but also choreographs their own music videos kinda makes me question why Izzy and Pip didn't spend more time together, bouncing ideas off of each other. There is one episode when they did sort of collab together to help each other get out of a creative block, but I didn't really feel any synchronization between the two. It felt more like both of them were creating something separate, so it came off incredibly unnatural. Though creativity and confidence often go hand in hand, I feel that confidence in the Netflix series and in the Tell Your Tale series was often confused for self-love, or narcissism, or even being obsessed with validation from others rather than self-confidence itself. Surely you can have confidence in yourself without the constant need for validation from others. That's not confidence, that's insecurity. Something that I sort of wish Pip learned about as the series went on. They touched briefly on this in the series, I admit, but it's something I definitely feel like should have been explored more. Izzy is clearly someone that feels very comfortable with who they are and doesn't really dwell much upon what others may think of her. Pip, however, is someone who is 100% obsessed with validation from others. She places her own self-worth on what other people say about her online. Something I feel that we can all relate to, especially nowadays. So with Pip and her creativity, that really revolves around performance and image. Izzy seems to operate more about expressing her creativity in a way that makes others happy. And there's really nothing wrong with that. I just wish there was a little bit more sophistication and depth to Izzy being the element of creativity here. But we can't have everything, can we?
Express yourselves! Let your freaky fun flags fly!
Do you believe that art can really be anywhere? Do you think this episode missed the point of what street art is, or am I just reading too much into things again? I don't know. I'm an art nerd and I saw an opportunity to geek out over Banksy and other topics within the art industry. Feels kinda nice to talk about My Little Pony again though. I'm Mad Munchkin, stay creative.